Hello, this is Paulo Casaca. I am director of South Asia Democratic Forum, and I am recording this video for you, the viewers of Global Views, the 21st of April in Prague in the Czech Republic. And I am going to talk to you about how to untangle the EU-India agreement. EU-India negotiations on a bilateral investment and trade agreement started already 7 years ago. In spite of some recent positive diplomatic declarations, the process has stalled, and I believe it will not succeed without a deeper understanding on the nature of the obstacles it faces. The European Union and India are the biggest democracies in the world. Different in many respects, they must be considered to be on a rigorous equal footing in order for any solid agreement to be achieved. Both of them are confronted with economic and political challenges that can be much better confronted in partnership rather than in isolation. If we take this approach, and if we therefore consider political agreements such as conventions and observation clauses in human rights to be based on such a rigorous equal footing, most of the existing difficulties can be put aside. Both India and Europe have vibrant and critical civil societies, and the establishment of talk shops where these organizations could freely interact on a critical appraisal of whatever issue might be on the table at the time would certainly be accepted as a sound basis for two open democratic societies to relate to each other. Naturally, this also implies a need to inscribe all human fundamental rights on the basis of such an agreement, such as the right to life, materialized in food or health care security. No trade solution or scheme can be envisaged if it does not respect these principles. For instance, any rule that would place existing pharmacological products out of reach of poor citizens should be taken off the negotiation table. It also means the European Union should understand that the implicit suggestion of any moral or civilizational European superiority is sufficient to ruin any possible agreement. The European Parliament has threatened to introduce a clause regarding Jammu and Kashmir, a principality whose statute was not settled after British India partition and is now occupied or administered by China, Pakistan and India. This clause, awkwardly, was never raised with the other parties to the dispute when the European Union concluded trade arrangements with them. The bowing to lobbying pressures and vested interests, such as those of an expatriate community in one EU member state, should not be the concern of the European Union external policy. The European Union also has many territorial disputes, either within its own borders or with its neighbors. Would, for instance, the United Kingdom find it reasonable for India to demand it to sort out a dispute over Gibraltar with Spain before accepting a trade agreement? Or if not, then why does it demand a similar step from India? The same could be asked of the city overlooking Gibraltar. Should third parties demand that the European Union settle the dispute with Morocco over Ceuta in the context of bilateral agreements? The second major political hurdle stemming from this superiority complex is global warming, where, once again, the European side positions itself on a pedestal overlooking an India that refuses to adapt carbon emission objectives, presumably because its people are deemed to be unable to understand the high moral standards of the European side of the argument. Whereas Europe has embarked upon schemes of utter complexity and dubious practicability, such energy cross subventions and carbon emission permits trading, thought up by Al Gore in an era when auctions seemed to be the universal answer to all human problems, and decided to impose them unilaterally in the foreign airspace, it has neglected the supply side of the issue, investing too little in fundamental and applied research on intelligent energy solutions. For its part, India has been unable so far to dismantle or at least to phase out its huge subventions to fuel and fertilizers that encourage energy waste. This would certainly be a simpler and more efficient way to diminish carbon emissions than carbon trade schemes whose implementation has been heavily twisted by vested interests. Fundamental and applied research, coupled with ways to curb disincentives and promote incentives to intelligent energy, are the means by which cooperation could contribute more to face fundamental problems for both sides: energy dependence and emissions with hazardous climatic impact, as well as to create employment and business opportunities while addressing vast environmental, health, energy and food problems. A certain final stumbling block has been the growing protectionist sensitivity on both sides of the negotiation table, easily understandable if we take into consideration the fact that the calendar of the negotiations has coincided with a global economic crisis. The only reasonable solution here is to consider strengthened and more frequently enforceable safeguard clauses. Economic equilibrium in the agreement is a fundamental requisite for a fully successful negotiation between EU and India. Last but not least, trade is a very convenient instrument to start overcoming the conflicts that are currently disrupting South Asia. The EU-India agreement should be seen as the first step towards an European Union South Asia Association for Regional Cooperation agreement. The EU would gain much more that way than by unnecessarily fueling confrontations on issues such as Jammu and Kashmir.